Today, for our second flipped classroom experience, I am covering the back page of your Chapter 7 packet, which is entitled The Amendments. Because of the end of the marking period, what I'm choosing to do for right now is not to have you guys do this in class, but I still want you to get this information. So I'm just going to share it with you, and be sure you're writing this stuff down. Again, a lot of these amendments we've talked about multiple times in this class, so I would be familiar with at least a few of these and be ready and prepared for questions on your tests regarding amendments. Specifically, the first 10 amendments we've talked about at length, the Bill of Rights. You obviously yesterday had your Bill of Rights exercise that we did in class, so just be sure that you're paying attention and following along as we go through this. And again, jot this stuff down, back cover of your Chapter 7 packet. Number 1, in order to protect the right of conscience, the First Amendment guarantees us the freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of petition, which is where you can get people to sign a piece of paper to try to get something accomplished. For instance, if all 8th graders hated my guts, which I hope isn't true, but if you all hated my guts unbelievably, and you got a petition, which is a sheet of paper that says how awful Mr. Bazem is, and you had every 8th grader sign it, you could present that to Mr. Torak and try to get me fired. Now, I really would appreciate it if you didn't do that, but that would be a good representation of what a petition is. Last part there, and the right to peaceably assemble, ASSEMBLE, which means you have the freedom in this country to gather as a group. Unless you're committing crimes or unless you're violating laws, you have the right to gather in this country. And that stems back from the American Revolution when people as a group. So the Sons of Liberty, for instance, had to meet in secrecy. And then the only other basic freedom from the First Amendment that we have not talked about, but you can add this to your notes, is the freedom of religion. In this country, you have the freedom to worship any way that you see fit, again, as long as you're staying within the confines of the laws of this country. Number 2, in order to protect our homes, the Second Amendment gives us the right to keep and bear arms. For all you hunters out there, this is an amendment that you should know a lot about, because this is the amendment that gives you the right to have and possess your own firearms. Now, in the United States, you do have to have your gun registered. In some instances, if you have a concealed weapon, you need to get a concealed weapons permit. But in this country, we do give normal citizens the opportunity to have a gun, which I'm very happy about because I like my goose and my duck hunting, and I do a little bit of deer hunting as well. So I know a lot of you are probably feeling the same way and probably enjoy your Second Amendment rights. Question 3, in order to protect the privacy of our homes, the Third Amendment forbids the quartering of troops. Again, this goes back to the Quartering Act. So many of these first early amendments go back to what we studied in the American Revolution because the Americans were so upset what was going on, they wanted to make sure this didn't happen again. So in our country, you do not have to house soldiers. Second part of number 3, the Fourth Amendment forbids a search of my home without a court-issued warrant. In other words, if a police officer tells you that they are going to come and search your house or search your belongings, in order to do that, they need to be able to present you with a search warrant, which states that they have probable cause, they have a reason to believe that you have something that you're not supposed to. Quick little note on Fourth Amendment. A lot of kids think, well, if it's my property, then they can't search it unless they have a search warrant. And every year this gets brought up. Kids ask the question, can Mr. Torak come and can he search our lockers? And the answer to that question is yes. That is not a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. Mr. Torak can at any time come and search your locker for any reason. He can just do a random check of your lockers if he wants to. The reason he can do that is because your lockers are not your property. Your lockers are school property. With our new one-to-one laptop initiative, which you guys are all listening on your laptops to this presentation, Mr. Torak or one of the administrators or one of the technology people can check your computer, or my computer for that matter, at any time for anything. They don't have to have a reason because the computers that you're using are not your property. It is the school's property. So be sure you're keeping that in mind with this idea of illegal searches and seizures. The police, if it's your property, they have to get a search warrant, but if they have a search warrant, you do have to let them search your home. Number 4, if I'm accused of a crime, the Fifth Amendment says I must be formally accused. I cannot be tried twice, so you can't be tried 2 times for the same crime. In other words, if the prosecuting attorney couldn't convict you of a crime and he's upset about it and he or she says, well, we didn't do a very good job of presenting this case, they can't try you again. You've already had your day in court, and you do not have to be subjected to that. So again, for 4, you can't be tried twice for the same crime, and I do not have to be a witness against myself. This is where you've heard the term maybe pleading the fifth before. If you ever go in front of a jury and you're ever on trial, which I hope that you're not, but you never know. Some of you may find yourself or other people that you know in that situation. According to the Fifth Amendment, you do not have to take the witness stand. Can you? Sure, if you want to, but you do not have to take the witness stand, and that is not held against you in a court of law. So, again, a lot of these things are amendments that you need to be aware of because these are rights you have as an American citizen. Question number 5. In order to give me a fair trial, the Sixth Amendment guarantees a trial by an impartial jury, which is a group of people. Some of your parents may have been called to have jury duty before. And to be confronted or seen by the witness or witnesses against me. In other words, the people who may have seen what went on, the people who are accusing you of the crime, that's who those people would be. The Seventh Amendment gives me the right to a trial by a jury in all cases above $20. Can you accuse someone of a crime? Let me give you an example. If one of you steals a pencil from my desk, which is very petty, even if I want to try to take you to court, because it was one of my Michigan State pencils, that I just loved so much, I cannot take you to court for a pencil, because my pencil isn't the value of $20. So I can't take you to court for that. But if you decided to steal my iPhone, and I found out that you stole my iPhone, I can absolutely take you to court for that, because trust me, my iPhone costs considerably more than $20. So be aware of that as well. Question 6. If I am convicted of a crime, the Eighth Amendment forbids cruel and unusual punishment. For instance, if you are convicted of stealing a candy bar from Leppings, the court, the judge, the jury cannot sentence you to life in prison for stealing a candy bar. The punishment does not fit the crime. They can't sentence you to, having to listen to Trenton Brayman talk for 4 hours, because, again, that would be a form of cruel and unusual punishment, because, quite frankly, who would want to do that? Yes, Trenton, I'm kidding, but I had to make fun of you at some point during these, since I'm not doing these in front of the class anymore. Question 7. 13th Amendment outlaws slavery in this country. This is a big topic that we'll talk about several different times throughout the course of the year before you're done and move on to your freshman year. And allows involuntary servitude as a punishment for crime. Number 8. In order to protect our rights for everyone, the 14th Amendment protects our rights as citizens in the United States and the state we live in. Number 9. The 15th Amendment eliminates race and color as a condition for voting, which means in this country you cannot be told that you can't vote just because of the color of your skin. This was one of the amendments that happened right after the Civil War. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments are called the Civil War Amendments because they all happened right after it. And again, we'll get into that as we go further in depth into this year. Number 10, the 16th Amendment allows the United States government to tax our income. Even though I hate income taxes, your parents hate income taxes, the United States will use this as a way to basically get money. Income taxes help pay for my job, they help pay for other governmental jobs, they help pay for our roads, our court systems, all sorts of different things income taxes go towards. Question 11. 17th Amendment allows citizens to elect senators by a direct vote. 18. The 18th Amendment made the 1920s literally roar because of all the anger and uproar by prohibiting the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol. This time period was called Prohibition because people were prohibited from either selling or consuming alcohol in this country. This will only last for about 14 years, and then we will get the 21st Amendment, which repeals, which means it cancels out the 18th Amendment. The reason that this amendment was repealed is we had a lot of gangsters and a lot of people bootlegging alcohol into this country, which basically means they were sneaking it in illegally. If any of you ever go to Chicago, you might hear about Al Capone. Al Capone is this very famous gangster, and this is kind of what he did, is he helped illegally transport things, alcohol into this country during Prohibition. So it did not last in our country. Number 13, the 19th Amendment, passed in the 1920s, guarantees this gender the right to vote. It was not until 1920 that women is the answer to 13. Women were allowed to vote in this country, and this is called the suffrage movement. Please take a look at that word suffrage. In fact, underline it, circle it, put a star next to it, whatever. Suffrage is a term that you need to know. Even though suffrage sounds like it would be really bad, suffrage literally means the right to vote. Now, I have a challenge for you right now. Hopefully your mom or your aunt or your sister is not listening to this, because if they are, it's going to ruin everything. But what I want you to do is go ask your mother right now, or your sister, whatever female is in your house, if they are for or against women's suffrage. Now, before you go do it, if they say they are for women's suffrage, even though suffrage sounds like suffer, it's not a bad thing. Suffrage, again, is the right to vote. So if your mom or your aunt or your grandma or whomever says that they are for women's suffrage, that means they like the fact that women can vote. If your mom, your grandma, your aunt, your sister, whoever tells you they are against women's suffrage, they are basically telling you that they don't think women have the right to vote. So please, go out right now, ask mom, ask grandma, ask whomever, share your stories with me tomorrow in class, tell me if you tricked any of them. I love doing this. I've had moms call me, Mr. Bazem, how come you're trying to confuse me with this women's suffrage stuff? So it's a lot of fun. I like to do it every year. So again, suffrage is just the right to vote. So try it out. Number 14, in order to ensure democracy, the 24th Amendment prohibits the payment of any poll tax as a condition for voting rights. What a poll tax is it means you have to pay to vote. In our country, you do not have to pay to vote. If you are Bill Gates and have, billions and billions of dollars, you don't get charged to vote. If you are the poorest person alive in our country, you also do not have to pay to vote. There's no poll tax. You don't have to pay. Number 15, the 26th Amendment lowers the voting age to 18. The 26th Amendment was passed during the Vietnam War. Because during the Vietnam War, 18-year-old young men in this country were being drafted to go fight in Vietnam. Some of your grandpas may have fought in Vietnam. And what that means is that since they were being shipped off to fight in war, at the time, the voting age was 21. So we had all these young men in our country that were literally going off and risking their lives and dying, some of them dying for our country, and yet these men couldn't vote. And so people thought that was wrong, and so they passed the 26th Amendment, which makes our voting age 18. Many of you will get to benefit from this because when you are 18-year-old seniors, which a lot of you will be able to vote in elections. You'll be able to vote for our President of the United States, our Vice President, our Senators, our House of Representatives members. If you live in the city of Stanton, you'll get to vote for our mayor, and you'll also get to vote for our school board members, who are the people who help to make rules and things of that nature for our school. So something to keep in mind. And last one, question 16. You absolutely need to know this for your test, so put a star next to it. The first 10 amendments of the United States Constitution are called the Bill of Rights. If you have any questions about this amendments page, be sure you're letting me know in class tomorrow. I'm probably going to give you the day tomorrow to get some work done. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And by all means, please let me know if you were able to trick your mom or somebody else on the definition of the word suffrage. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.